Hello, Tim from Fair Play Now on the 15th of July 2022, and I mentioned yesterday that I was going for a common law talk with a guy called Dominic Morehouse. Well, it turns out that it wasn't just common law. There was a bit of that in his talk, which lasted a good 3 hours or so, but he took a deep dive into lots of other truth of subjects as well, and yeah, it was a really interesting, entertaining evening. And a couple of gems that I took away, and there's lots of them, but with common law, what he was saying that he's done is he's actually trademarked his name, so he's got got his name and then a little TM symbol there. And whenever anyone writes to him saying, "Oi, why haven't you paid your taxes?" or whatever it might be, he just writes back to them and says, "Excuse me, you've just used my trademark without my permission, so that'll be £500, please." And he's also registered his name with sort of Companies House, so his name is basically like a limited company, and if you do that, it means any contract is null and void, and you have to negotiate a contract with company to company. So there's some really good hints and tips there. So this Dominic Morehouse, he's not just any old truther. He's actually an ex-lieutenant colonel in the British Army, so a pretty high up army officer, and recently retired. Just last year I think he retired. And yeah, and he really does know his stuff. He's taken a deep dive into common law and all of the normal sort of truth of subjects, and he knows a lot. And if you ever get a chance to see him, I can highly recommend it. And with that in mind, he's actually agreed to do an interview with me, and so I'm going to go along there and do a live in-person interview with him, and then get that uploaded. Well, it won't be on this platform obviously, but I'll have a little intro video, and then it will be on my website, I should think. But yeah, sort of looking forward to it. So hopefully you will get a chance to see at least a condensed version of what he has to say, because I won't be interviewing him for 3 hours, but sort of probably get a half an hour, 3/4 of an hour with him with a bit of luck. Don't know when it will be. It's often a challenge to get diaries to match up with these sort of things, but with a bit of luck I'll be able to get this video out in the next month or two, so stay tuned. And another thing he was saying is, well, he was saying that people are in different stages of awakening, or different levels. So it's level 1, which is your typical normie who sort of takes everything mainstream media says as gospel, and level 2 is people who are just starting to question things, and the narrative, which is probably where I was sort of about 3 or 4 years ago. And then it goes up from there. And he said, I think it's about level 5, you just get to the stage where pretty much everything the sort of mainstream narrative and mainstream media says, you just find is totally laughable. And he was actually saying that he sits there, watches the mainstream media news, and pretty much treats it like a comedy show. So he just sits there and laughs at it. And I've got to say, that's what I was doing this morning. Just did a little job changing over a couple of lights in these people's house, and also repairing another light that wasn't working. Got all that done sort of pretty quickly. But while I was in there, they had the TV on and they're sitting watching it, and I had the delight of listening to Jeremy Vine, the Jeremy Vine TV show. If you're from abroad and you don't know who Jeremy Vine is, he's basically one of these characters who, his main thing is a radio show on BBC Radio, sort of around midday, and he's also popped up. He's got a TV show now, which is what these people had on, and he appears in various other TV shows, which is kind of, I've always wondered about that. You get these characters who just seem to be on every TV show, or loads of them, and you think, why do they have to have one person on loads? Why can't they kind of just spread things out a bit more evenly? So I always found that a bit weird, to be honest with you. I don't know about you, but anyway, they were going on this Jeremy Vine show about the whole sort of climate change thing, particularly the Extinction Rebellion and the Stop Oil protests, which have been happening in this country recently, basically anti-climate sort of protests. And he was asking the question, do you think these people are heroes or not? Which, to be honest with you, until fairly recently would have been a subject that would have really triggered me, and I'd have been sort of fuming. But some of the stuff they're just coming out with was completely laughable. The most memorable one was Jeremy Vine was saying, because whichever one it was, Stop Oil or Extinction Rebellion, he was saying last winter they were predicting this weather, this hot weather. They were predicting it just in their protests last winter, and I just thought, so they were predicting summer, and that you get hot weather in summer. Because I don't know about you, but that's a skill I kind of have as well. So, because he was making it out to be some really big, wondrous thing, and I just had to laugh, because, like I say, I do believe I've got similar skills, and I don't really think they're too out of the ordinary. And I'm going to make a prediction. Are you ready for this? Are you ready? I'm going to predict that in 6 months' time, we'll be in the depths of winter here by then, that it's going to be a little bit on the chilly side, and you might have to go out with your sort of winter woolies and your sort of coats and jackets and scarves and hats on and everything. That's what I'm going to predict. How accurate do you think that is? And then after that, another 6 months' time, it will be next summer, and I predict that we will be having some hot days next summer. So let's see how much of a fantastic predictor of these kind of outcomes I am. What do you think? Anyway, I think I kind of took Dominic's sort of advice just to laugh at the mainstream narrative and just see through it and see it for the nonsense it is. When I heard that stuff this morning, rather than getting triggered and incensed by it like I would have done until, frankly, relatively recently. So that's a good bit of advice, I thought, and a really good advice. Just look at these things, just recognise it for the nonsense it is, and just laugh at it. Anyway, I hope to tell you a lot more about Dominic and his stuff going forward, and hopefully get this interview. But a lot of what he was saying was all about spirituality and symbolism and how important all of that kind of thing is. And I don't know if this kind of ties in with it. It probably does, but on the way back, I was coming back pretty late, so it was dark, and I was driving down these kind of fairly remote country lanes, had the whole road to myself a good portion of the journey, and about halfway through it, Up ahead, I saw about 10 deer kind of cross the road in front of me. They kind of all ran across the road, some big ones, some little ones, some in-between ones, and I thought that was a fantastic sight. And then I get a bit further along up to the top of this hill that's nearby me, and I look over to the right because I see this really bright thing in the sky, and it's the moon. It's either a full moon last night or pretty close to it, and it was huge. It just looked like a whopping great beach ball up there in the sky, and it was glowing brightly. Had some wisps of cloud going across the front of it. Really did look fantastic. So, you know, that is quite extraordinary, isn't it? I sort of come away from this talk which went in quite heavily into spirituality and predictions and all sorts of stuff like that, and then I see a wonderful sight of nature and also this fantastic moon. So I just thought I'd comment on that, and it's fantastic to see. So I'll leave it there for now. Tim from Fair Play Now, thanks for watching.